Hi, this is Joan Chew, professional New York bass player, and you're watching Case for Bass. Keep it real.
I'm Anthony Gethers.
And I'm Greg Weiss.
And we are the hosts of Case for Bass.
Tell me what's happening today, Greg.
Well, we have a very special guest, and today we have an amazing New York City bassist musician. This is Joan Chew. Joan and I met on Facebook recently, and we talk about passion for playing and of all things cats. We're big cat lovers, and Joan is a fantastic player. She plays in and around, New York City, but I think mostly the East Coast. And we're going to talk to Joan about who she's playing with and her passion for playing. So Anthony Gethers gets the first question.
So, Joan Chew.
Hi, Anthony.
First and foremost,
hi, everyone.
Round of applause for having you on. Let's give a round of applause for Joan Chew. All right, Joan. My first question is always this.
Okay.
Did the bass choose you, or did you choose the bass?
Man, I know I've been approached that question before, but I would say I choose the bass. So I started out as playing piano and violin when I was very young, and apparently that was supposed to be my choice, according to my parents. And then when I got into my teenage years and found that the classical piano and violin wasn't very cool with my friends. And then I heard the electric guitar. And so I decided to pick up the guitar. I decided to pick up some drums. And then when I felt the bass, it just spoke to me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, the funny thing to comment on what you talked about violin, we interviewed a bass player named Yuka Tadano. She plays on...
I do know her, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I know of her. Yes.
Okay, so Yuka's on the Broadway musical of... was it Neil Diamond's Beautiful?
Yes, Beautiful Noise.
Beautiful Noise. So she mentioned classical, because she's from Japan.
Yeah.
She mentioned that obviously from a traditional Asian family, that the piano or the violin will be the first instrument of choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then she found the bass eventually. Well, she bought the bass. She bought a bass for her sister.
For her sister.
She eventually
to be a band.
To be a band. Yeah, that was their goal, which is very, very much not the old school version of a lot of Asian cultures expect.
No,
but definitely. So you're kind of almost in the same direction.
Yeah.
But you also played violin. You seem to play violin exceptionally pretty well. I saw that one of your videos. So talk about how the bass, you play piano as well, how the bass coordinated with the violin and how that might have impacted that. Because it's still a 4-string instrument.
Yes.
But what makes it different besides having the higher tones and the G flat for Zeppelin?
Well, I think one good thing about learning the violin and then the transfer of knowledge to bass is basically a string instrument. For example, you just don't have like one note on one place like the way piano is, right? So you learn to play certain lines on a single string, or when you have the cross string, just to make the melody make sense or a groove make sense. So I think that's really helpful. Mm-hmm. But obviously what's very different is you don't have the same kind of sustain or resonance that the violin has, which is in a bow as opposed to finger and pick.
Do you find sometimes that when you're in the middle of playing bass that you hear that violin inside you want to come out?
No.
Okay.
Not really. I don't know how that would
Okay.
be. Yeah.
No, because
Interesting question. Very interesting question. Because now you make me think about it. Maybe it would. Yeah.
yeah, no, because I was a guitar player,
Yeah.
and now I'm transitioning from my 4 into a 6, and
Oh,
I
okay. Yeah.
feel my higher register coming out, and
Oh.
it's something that I'll ask another player, because we speak to a lot of bass players that
Yes.
play other instruments. They're arrangers and composers, and I just know that from playing bass and you're holding the bottom, sometimes I don't have that discipline to stay there, and I want to reach out. I want to reach out and voice other things.
I think for me, because I started on the piano as my first instrument, I've always been exposed to there is a bass part, there is a rhythm part, and there is a melodic part, and that they all have to work together. So if I'm concentrating on the melody part, in my hands, then everything else has to kind of like either support that or play secondary to that. And so when I approached the bass, it just felt like, oh, okay, I'm playing something with my left hand, so to speak, on the piano. So that's my approach with the instruments. Only because I think I feel like my first instrument is the piano, and I've been like exposed to like trying to balance all of that in my hands.
Okay.
So that's how it is in my mind as well.
We're gonna define that Joan is a very disciplined player, and
Yes.
that I tend not to be.
That's awesome. What was your very first bass?
Which is not here with me. It's in Singapore.
Okay.
So because I transitioned from violin to bass, I thought I was going to buy. I thought I would, connect better with a fretless. So my first bass is a fretless chord bass.
Oh
Chord.
wow!
All right. Cool. Fretless chord.
Yeah, but
And
it did not work. It does not work the same way. Melodically, when I play melodic lines, it's fun. But when I wanted to really get into some kind of rock groove, it just didn't make any sense. But I was too new to understand.
I saw your fretless influence in you were doing a cover of "Wash Me Clean," Katie Lang song.
Oh
And
yes.
I watched you do a lot of the slides with that.
Yeah.
Just the way you were doing that, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I later clicked on another video, and that's when I saw you doing a Led Zeppelin cover, but you were doing it with the violin. And I then later realized I said, there's the connection right there.
Yeah.
So that was pretty awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep, so
Yeah, she's a triple threat.
yes. Can you read music?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Oh,
From
okay.
being classically trained, I read music. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
It
Now,
pays off.
It does pay off.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation where you had to read bass parts?
Oh yeah. I mean, I sub on 6 Broadway as well.
Oh,
So they send me the book, and obviously I have to learn the book with scores. Yeah.
okay. So what shows do you sub? What shows do you sub on?
Just 6 Broadway. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good for you.
I went on tour when they asked me last minute to do a week show in Ohio.
Okay.
And to be honest, they actually offered me, I don't know if I should be saying this, but they offered me a role in the US tour, but I'm not ready to do that personally.
Okay. When you say role, are you talking about acting? Or are you talking about playing
Bass
bass?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh, good for you.
Now, why do you feel you're not ready for it?
Not that I'm not ready to play it, but I'm not I have a lot of commitments right now till January, and I don't think it's the right thing for me to do, to turn around and say, hey, bye, I'm leaving to go join US tour with 6.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of angry clients.
I know.
Well,
take off.
There's 2 trains of thought. One is you never say no, because
That's what happened. When I moved to New York, I said yes to everything.
you say yes to everything.
Everything.
And what happens is you develop these relationships and you start booking dates, and eventually it can catch up with you. I mean, even if it's just a single date, you always want to be with this next person who's going to call you in a bind, except when you're already booked and you go, love to be there, but I'm committed.
Yeah.
Do
I'm
you
committed.
do you have other bass players? Let's say that you can't make a gig. Are you in a position where you'll say to your client, well, I can't commit to it, but I can recommend or suggest someone else?
Oh, definitely. I have a few friends, bass player friends, that I will highly recommend if I can't make the gig. And obviously, I will ask whoever's hiring me to if they would like a recommendation from me first, because they
Okay.
may have someone else in mind as well.
Okay, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So you have a nice circle of bass player friends if you need to fill in
That
the
I,
gaps.
yes. Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
People I believe that will bring it to the gig. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So,
fantastic.
Greg, ask a question. Take a break.
Well, can we ask where you're from? Singapore?
I'm from Singapore. Yeah.
And how did the transition to the United States work that you ended up leaving your first bass behind?
Well, I brought my second bass with me, so
Okay.
Great.
I left Singapore. So just a little background. When I was in Singapore, I was already like a full-time musician. I taught violin in a school called the Mandeville Music Conservatory, and I was head of strings there. I also taught a little bit of piano, and I played in a cover band about 3 to 4 times a week. I also played in a electric string trio. I
Oh, wow.
frequently play in string quartets for events. Yeah, full-time musician.
No, that's
I don't remember a weekend not working. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
So you're legitimate. You're not.
Yeah,
People
no.
who pose as full-time musicians, and you always see them out. Like, why are you not playing? What's your work?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that was in Singapore. So when I first moved here, I visited New York when my friend was studying here, and I really liked the scene. I didn't think I could survive here, but I wanted to take a sabbatical and come over here and just to suss it out, you know. So when I came over here, the first things I did was to go into Suzuki teacher training, just because I thought it was a great way to approach teaching.
Yes.
So yes,
All the kids learn the Suzuki.
Yeah. So I have like my Suzuki teacher training up to like book 8 and whatever. I also did yoga teacher training.
Oh, wow.
So that's my sabbatical, and then I went on Craigslist and looked for gigs.
Good.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Craigslist. Yeah.
New York City, we find is it's an excellent resource to become a full-time player. That there's Anthony and I were talking about this. That there's events that always need a bass player. There's bands that are always looking for bass players, and there's 10,000 potential places to play.
True.
So what we find is that the more people we talk to from New York City, that they're playing all the time. So I'll ask another question. When did you start full-time playing in Manhattan that you realized my fear is unjust and that I can make it here?
When I started to realize that people were recommending me, and I must be doing something right here, you know.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's awesome. Okay, let's backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
So, what were your parents playing in their house? Like, what were your influences? So I look at it from two ways. There's what you were listening to, or what your parents were listening to.
They were listening to a lot of
George,
Chinese
Led Zeppelin.
music,
Okay, so Chinese music. Okay.
Beatles.
Okay.
I mean, there was a lot of like church music too. I grew up Catholic. Yeah, a lot of Chinese music, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Chinese music but Chinese music has different beats and timbres.
Absolutely.
And
Not classical Chinese music, not
Okay.
like traditional Chinese music, but Chinese pop music.
okay.
Got it. Okay, so but you eventually got influenced by John Paul Jones. Because
Eventually.
Yeah. So what led to that? What led to that point when you became interested in the Led Zeppelin type of thing?
Well, John Paul Jones one is a multi-instrumentalist, and to me,
Okay.
of course,
Hold on one
there's a
second.
draw there.
We're not worthy.
We're not worthy.
John Paul Jones.
When
Any
John
one of
Paul
our
Jones is
influences,
just-
we do.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I just want to meet him.
Yep.
Yeah, there's just a way of his expression that doesn't matter whether he's playing chords one note by himself or in a band.
Absolutely.
It's universal what he's presenting.
Okay,
Yeah.
you may continue. Awesome.
Yeah, so that there is definitely that draw that he's a multi-instrumentalist, and I mean, he just knows where to put down the lines or where to put down the groove, or where to play melodically, where to play rhythmically. He knows how to balance all of that. And like the more I go into the material, the more respect I have for him. It's just insane.
It's insane.
So much to learn. It's like I just feel like I'm constantly learning his from his parts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So besides John Paul Jones, any other bass influences?
I'm going to be so typical and say Paul McCartney. But,
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's completely legit.
We're not worthy because we're both Paul
We're
McCartney
still
fans.
not
I mean,
worthy.
Yeah,
especially when I watch the recent Beatles show and then see him writing too. Just like it just seems so easy.
He worked very hard at it.
He works, yeah, of course. But he makes it look so easy. You know what I mean?
But I will say that even back then, they put their 10,000 hours in.
Yes,
Those
that's
guys,
right.
They really, really did.
And they were pushed. I mean, George
really
Martin pushed
Yep.
pushed how they have to songwrite for popular.
Well, George Martin helped elevate them because they went from being the boy band, from I Want to Hold Your Hand to Ticket to Ride to Abbey Road. And once they got to that point, also Bob Dylan, he helped as well by feeding some drugs to John Lennon.
It went back and forth.
Yep,
I'm sure it went back and forth.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Paul McCartney, John Paul Jones, anyone else?
Specifically bass players, no, but I do have a lot of bands that I like. I really like jazz pianist Brett Mehldau.
Okay.
To me, he speaks to me because I rarely cry at concerts. Like as most people don't really cry at concerts, but when he plays a ballad, and I just feel like I cannot control my emotions. Yeah. Okay. So the first time I saw him in Singapore, in the theater, I watched him and I started bawling. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's one of my favorite jazz piano player. I'm just musician. Yeah.
I think Greg cries at concerts as well.
Well, I'm gonna admit there are two piano players that I cry to.
Oh yeah.
The first one's Richard T.
Okay.
Richard T from Stuff and just all the parts and bands he played in. But the other one's George Winston.
Ooh.
And I got exposed to George Winston when I was in college, and I think it was the Autumn album, and just it was one of the first records that I played my fretless bass to. Oh. I found him as an accompaniment that wouldn't let me down. That there was enough open space, there was enough feeling and emotion in what he was playing that it hit a part of me that I couldn't control the emotion, and it's more like what he isn't playing than what he is playing sometimes. I'm a big Rush fan. So when you're a big Geddy Lee fan or a Rush fan, it's three guys playing really six parts, and you don't hear the other three parts because they lift off the root and they're playing off the inversions and they're playing the off beats and not necessarily the on beats, and your brain starts putting together this overload of awesome in my book. Started out playing guitar parts, but when I switched to bass, I was playing the bass parts and not even connecting with what the guitar was doing anymore, except if I was listening to the record. But those are the Richard T and George Winston. Those are the two guys I'll cry for, if not Dave Grusin.
Yeah, I'll only cry because they can't play like that.
Well, it goes that way. What do you Trust me, if I had listed all the bass players I couldn't play like, I wouldn't stop crying. So
me too.
Yes, constantly crying. So what are you listening to these days? Like for you to, not just for bass parts, because you're a multi-instrumentalist. So what are you listening to just for enjoyment purposes?
I still have been listening to Beck and Hosea. Actually, I really enjoy their stuff. I really enjoy Gorillaz.
Oh, they're awesome.
The most recent album, Cracker Island. It's still on repeat on my stereo. So
nice.
I like Gorillaz only because I was a big fan of Blur.
Me too.
Yes, I love that was Blur. My period. Like I was a big 80s alternative ska guy. Oh. So Blur was my band for a long time. Blur, Stone Roses. Yeah. Yep. So that was Joy Division. Bands like there were the bands that were the electronic bands, and then there were the bands that were guitar based drum bands. So Stone Roses, Blur,
Yeah.
where of course turned into Gorillaz, and a few offsets to that. So, are there any modern bands that you listen to? And outside of that, do any of these bands, besides getting enjoyment or pleasure from listening to them, do you also enjoy the fact that you're getting bass parts from them?
Oh
Are you
yeah,
hearing-
definitely.
Okay.
In fact, I remember when I was playing some Blur stuff, I always thought was interesting was the writing. There were a lot of songs that didn't have like a 5/1 kind of chord progression, but yet it sounded like typical pop, you know?
Yep.
So, I mean, learning those bass parts, like, you know that song, Girls and Boys?
Yes,
Who
girl.
love girls, who love girls, who
Love,
like
you love
boys.
boys, you like boys,
That
you like
funky
girls.
bass line.
Yep. It's like
It's
that.
really
Bro,
good.
cut to the bone, cut to the bone, cut to the
Yeah,
bone.
Who would have thought that Alex, I can't remember his last name now, is now a cheese farmer? from
Yes, he actually decided to leave the business.
the- yeah, and be a
Cheese farmer,
Yeah.
out of all things, not like an
Well,
investor, not not an investor, not something cool or trendy. I'm gonna go out there and be a cheese farmer.
I know.
Gonna have dairy and just have them spit out milk and they will make cheese.
Well, once you get outside New York City, things look different.
I suppose.
And you get, well, it doesn't happen that far. I mean, like Bob Dylan, who was mostly an urbanite,
Yeah.
once he got out to Woodstock, it was it did a 180 for him, because you get upstate and you see the mountains, and mostly it's the Hudson Valley. Where we're at is you always have that, and so many New Yorkers are just escaping outside, and they're all heading upstate. And what happens is you still have a New York City mindset, but now there's clean air, you're in the woods, there's wineries, there's farms. And recently all these niche foodies started food companies. And it's become a thing, it's hard to describe that, but kind of like how I would cry for piano players, people become cheese farmers. The big thing up here is people grow mushrooms.
Oh, well, I've heard of it. Yeah.
And they grow mushrooms in these dark little cabins. They pick them, and now they're heading into Manhattan at $80 a pound for a little. There was a woman up here, and she became the world's expert at micro vegetables, micro corn, micro carrots, micro zucchini, and all the New York City restaurants were buying up everything she grew. And yeah, no, they called her the shit lady because of how she grew, and she was always barefoot running around in her fields, and she was always cultivating, real sources of manure from all the local farmers, but she taught everybody how to grow.
That's cool. Let's get back to base.
I'm just saying, people get different interests, especially when they get success in music.
Let's talk about your performing live with your band.
Yeah.
And then you do the Broadway thing. Do you do recordings as well as far as studio sessions?
Yeah, I do go into studios when I'm asked to play. I have somebody. Do you guys know who Tom Bujour is?
Why does it name sound familiar?
Why does it sound familiar?
He's also an author for suddenly I can't remember the title of the book. But anyway, he has a studio in New Jersey, and I do go in and record with him sometimes.
Awesome. What do you get your most pleasure? Do you prefer to do live? Do you prefer to be orchestra? Do you prefer to actually record? Where do you feel you get your most? Where do you feel you have your most?
I really like them all. I feel like I'm really happy to be able to do all of it, because I think it's not about just the situation of life, because we all have like sucky live shows at times, and it could be because of like venue or or the sound in the room just wasn't well done, or something can happen. And I personally, when in a studio, I prefer it when I have like people or the band around me.
Okay.
So we're vibing off each other as opposed to just recording parts.
Got it.
Which sometimes it's excuse me. Which sometimes it's fun too. It's like more of a personal challenge. But like when you're making ideas together with the band, the drummer, the songwriter who's there, or the producer, that's my favorite kind of recording project.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah. Well, if you want to talk about sucky gigs, I can go on for 6 episodes.
Yep. Well, speaking of that, were there any gigs where there were some real challenges where you were like, man, I can't wait till this crap is over?
Challenges. I mean, I'm sure there must have been like when you think that the venue tells you they have a bass amp, but then you show up and they don't, and you're just stuck with a DI. So that
Yeah,
must be
I'm not a DI guy.
I'm not a DI guy.
That does suck.
Yeah.
Actually.
I mean, when they tell you, especially when they tell you, and if not, you could have gone in way more prepared and bring your own amp, but they tell
Right.
you you have one, and then you're like, what just happened here?
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
no, we
people-
were. Who were we talking to? We were talking to Billy Sheehan about getting
Billy Sheehan.
gear and endorsements, and he goes, these companies hunt me down and they get a hold of me and they want to send me gear, and I say yes, and the gear shows up and it's broken.
No way, really? Why? What?
Yeah.
Why?
But to be on the other side and hear that, you're like, well, wait a second, like my guitar player makes pedals, and like I can't see him sending a pedal to somebody that
have it arrive broken.
We understand your feeling, because he's like, I really wanted to try this. I really wanted it to work. And you get these disappointments, but I can't imagine a theater telling you there's no amp.
Oh, it wasn't a theater. It was a club bar situation. Yeah.
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 Well, most clubs generally will tell you. A lot of theaters don't have back lines. They usually let you bring your own gear half the times. Clubs, depending, it all depends also, obviously, the theater as well.
Yeah.
But most places, if they hire you for your sound, they want your sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
right.
want your sound. Like, they're not going to hire you and say, well, we're going to hire you, but we want you to play like John Paul Jones. Since we don't get influenced by them.
I think what was weird for me was definitely when I first got onto 6 Broadway and I realized that I don't get to play my own bass.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But they gave me a chance to warm up with the bass on stage, and they tell me I can do that. But my first show with them was without rehearsal, and it was just like jump into the show kind of thing.
Wow.
And you're on the stage when you play, or in the pit?
I'm on stage for
Oh,
6.
good
I'm
for you.
on stage. Yeah. So the band is on stage. Yeah.
So they literally threw you in, gave you charts,
And put you on stage.
Way before.
Okay, so they
prepare.
give you charts in advance. So at least you have those in advance. Is that common? Is that commonplace? Will they'll do that? They'll give you the charts in advance, and then you study the charts.
Well, so the whole story is that someone recommended me for it because they were looking for a female bass player to do sub work, and I got an audition, and they sent me a song to audition. So I auditioned, making a video with myself recording and with their tracks, and then they said, "Cool. So let me train you now. This is what's going to be happening on stage. You have to do some of these, choreographed movements, or interact with the queens on stage, or
Wow.
this is how we're going to play."
This is all while you're
That's
playing.
acting.
This
That's
is all while you're
acting.
playing. Like, this is all while you're basically doing choreography while you're playing.
Well, there's not a lot, but
Okay.
still you have parts that you have to do.
Okay.
And
We call that double dipping. They're going after they're going after your acting and you're playing at the same time.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely very nerve-wracking for my first show. So while it wasn't I would say it's a bad gig. It's a bad gig in my head because I didn't think I did extremely well. There's one part where I had to put on my sunglasses to play. And I practiced with my sunglasses at home too.
I hear you.
But I put it on and the stage was really dark and I couldn't see my page turner on the floor. So that was just like, oh no, I know the song. I made the changes, but there's some things where it's like, it's so specific. It's a quarter note here and a half note rest here, and then like a quarter note rest there. You have to be so specific, right?
Sure,
Yes.
sure.
Spread over someone's parts.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't help that you're.
my sunglasses had missed my page turn. That was it. I'm like,
Wow.
Yeah, there's no margin of error.
no.
Well, it's just funny that you're wearing sunglasses. And it sounds like either the musical director or the producer didn't take into consideration that you're on stage, it's dark, and you have sunglasses on. Yeah, you'll have your light for your light for. Are they using iPads these days, or you're still using sheet music?
Basically, the band, whoever is holding the chairs, they don't have scores in front of them because I'm a sub, so I'm allowed to score.
Okay.
And I'm on an iPad, which is reverse, because
Yes.
instead of like the white light reflecting on my face,
dark.
it's reverse. Yes. So that's another challenge, but I got used to that. And then I need a page turner so that I can turn the page with my feet and not like tap. something because I think it just takes away the
That's
visuals.
cool.
Now
Yeah.
the iPads have an app for that, right? But isn't there an app where you literally can be it turns? Because I noticed that I work in production.
Yes.
So we have the app with the teleprompter, and either the talent can control it or the producer can control it as well.
Right.
So
I use a Bluetooth turner just so I can turn the page myself. Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those things I did not expect on stage when the lights go off. I mean, I watched the show before going in to play, obviously, but you know, nothing like being on stage, and this is all so close to me right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. But this sounds like you obviously prevailed.
I'm sorry. Oh yeah.
You prevailed.
I didn't say a word to anybody because I didn't think I would get called back the next night, which was like a date that they gave me, and they're like, "Okay, come back and play."
You made this smart move. I can relate from another interviewee who got fired for asking a question. And he's a New York City bass player. I don't even know if I want to mention him by name, but he's very up and coming. He's Ron Carter student, mega player. This guy's all over the world recently. And the story he gave us was that he was in a rehearsal and the drummer he was too loose. He wasn't keeping to what was going on, and he didn't know whether he should follow the drummer or follow the score. And he raised his hand and he asked a question and politely wasn't asked to come back.
Oh no.
Yep.
Oh, true story.
Yep.
And these are one of the things about Case for Bass that us being the sounding boards and hearing all the stories, I learned something from everybody.
Absolutely.
And it's making me a better player because I'm getting more discipline as I get more interviews in, and even from this conversation, I've absorbed things that are just going to pop in my head when I'm playing.
Situation
the first thing is having a page turner if I have sunglasses. That's going to be that's going to be the first one. But seriously, when you bring that up, you made the right decision. And what happens is that sometimes these gigs are out of our control, and that we don't have as much input as we think, and maybe doing the right thing.
Well, for the most part, when you're hired as a sub, you have no input unless they tell you.
You know, but like you're just trying to find your way through. And me, I've always been a question asker, but then again, you know, I would probably be asked not to show again. So
now, have you ever been in the position? Speaking of that, have you ever been in the position where someone said to you, "Joan, you know, maybe this isn't working out for us"?
I mean, of course, yeah. Of course.
Okay. Yeah, but at least you can be honest about it, because most people, they kind of will say it. If you bring it up to them, they'll say, "Oh, I've never been let go." And then, of course, in this business, it's small. You know, this is a small business. Yeah. And eventually, you run into someone.
Of course. And
you're like, "What happened to so-and-so?" "Oh, yeah, we had to let him go because he wasn't good enough."
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's not even not good enough, which, of course, I'm sure I've been let go because of that. Or it's just like it.
Or not a good fit would be a better way of describing it.
Yes. Yeah. Not a good fit. Like, I'm not going to pretend I can play jazz, you know, for example. So I'm not going to like say that I'm going to be a good fit for anybody's gig. I mean, I won't work at it, but I'm still going to, I know myself that I'm not a jazz bass player. I'm not pretend to be that. Yeah. So,
I had a gig where it was supposed to be a whole jazz thing, and my jazz kind of sucks. So I remember the people were sitting there. This was in Baltimore, probably about 9 years ago. And I remember a bunch of people sitting there, and they were primarily jazz players. But there was one guy who came along who was a funk player, and he showed up late. And I go, "Dude, thank God you're here." So he comes in, and we kind of just jammed on a little bit of Parliament on One Nation Under the Groove. And people started dancing. They got up, and I looked at the guy who hired me. I go, "I'm sorry, bro. This is a dance night tonight." Now, of course, I was never invited back, but he did thank me because he said that once everyone started dancing, that's where they stayed. They were like, "Nope, we want to dance the entire night." Once he broke out and do pow 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 pow, And then I was like, dude, let's go into so and so, let's go into Slave, let's go into, and we just kept staying there. And the floor just, they were on the floor for an hour and a half.
Wow.
And finally, the people, one of the hosts of the party, who was paying the band, came up to me and said, I should have spoken to you first, and not the jazz guy. I thought that this was a wine and cheese crowd. I thought that they wanted jazz. I see people sitting around there itching. They're fidgeting. And I'm like, looking at the guy going, dude, they want to dance. They don't want to hear musical masturbation. They don't want to hear solos. They want to dance.
Yeah.
And finally, when that guitar player showed up, and I saw he had a bunch of stickers in his guitar bag, and he had like all these rock and funk and soul bands. I was like, oh my God, thank God you're here. Let's make these people dance. And the drummer was super happy. So I can totally, I know he wasn't going to hire me again, but I don't care. That was about his ego at that point. He had a happy client, but his ego got in the way. So that didn't bother me one bit.
Right.
Yeah, the opposite happened to me. I was at this show, and I asked a friend to sit in, and everything was going great. And I knew the big dance songs were coming up, and I knew people would be dancing. And guys like, all right, I'm going to pass my bass on to this guy who wants to sit in. And this guy grabs my bass. He starts dancing all over the room. The whole bar starts jumping up and down. And I feel like I'm an inch and a half tall in the room. And, well, you know who that guy was? The guy on my side, Anthony Gathers. And now I'm the guy holding the phone.
Well, it's a good thing you guys are still friends now.
Oh, we're very good friends, and we have no bass jealousy. It was just the time of the night and the moment, and it was all fun, and I appreciate it because I know what he does, and I handed it off knowing he's going to do 9.5 minutes of funk. So it was just it just adds to the story of sometimes you got to stay in your lane. Yeah. And sometimes you got to pass it on to the guy who's going to get everybody off the floor.
But I also been in the positions where I've been. There was a band that I play with, and the singer didn't like the fact that he felt that I was taking away his shine. But for me, I felt I was getting everyone. Like for example, the Chili Peppers. If you got rid of Flea, you would literally lose 50% of the band.
I agree.
Yeah, because he's one of my influences. And to me, it's like you're there to entertain the audience. So I'm not there to get a solo project. I'm not there to get a solo deal. I'm there to help elevate the band. Because people see the band and we're having a fun time. They come back and see us more. Ever since they fired me, the band there was a group of 12 people. And this one gay couple approached the guys and he said, where's the bass player? And they brought in 10 people, this couple. And I remember the guitar player calling me and telling me the story. He goes, dude, they were looking for you. And within the first 5 minutes, they all got up and left.
Wow.
Yeah, they all got up and left.
They remembered you. That's great. Yeah.
Well, I like the idea that sometimes I'll sacrifice quality of playing to entertain the audience.
Right.
Now, after I did the Victor Wooten Bass Camp, I had to flip that a little bit because I realized that when you're in a class that is Victor Wooten watching you and you're kind of sloppy, as he said during the interview, Greg, I can kind of tell how you play within the first 30 seconds. I'm watching you, and so he saw my flaws. So I was a little embarrassed. Like it was a humbling experience.
He puts his body into it, and I wouldn't say he's sloppy. I'd say he's slappy. And Anthony brings the whole package when he plays. I've seen him do it all, but he definitely dials in for what people want out of him as opposed to what he necessarily thinks he can deliver, because he can always deliver more. And one thing we learned from Anthony was sell low and over deliver.
Sell low, sell low, over deliver. Well, most funny that you speak of that, Greg. Someone asked me recently, what's one of my favorite bass lines? I said to him, Unchained from Michael Anthony.
Yeah.
I love that bass line. Just the way it just drives. While I'm thinking about it, I love how you played Ramble On. I was watching your video on YouTube. Just the way you played it was so beautiful.
Thank you.
How long did it take you to get it right?
I mean, just I was about to say about the parts in Led Zeppelin, and when I played with Led Zeppelin, the first I don't know how many shows, I barely moved from my spot on stage because I was so focused and wanted to get everything right. Like even like till today with Lemon Song, I'm like, I'm going to play all his parts first before I can try to deviate, because till I nail his parts, then then I will allow myself to deviate in his language. You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh yeah,
like
no, you've opened up the can of worms. If we could talk about Led Zeppelin playing,
Yep.
do you find that your drummer locks it? It's a hard thing between the record and the live.
Oh my God. Tell me about it.
I can because
please tell me about it.
I have to suffer it. Part of
wait, before you continue, Greg.
Oh God, this is twice.
His drummer is horrible.
My drummer. I don't even want to preface it. Anybody who watches who knows I have drummer issues.
Yeah, his drummer
issues.
I give great credit for not taking his bass and slamming him over the head.
Oh boy,
I really do. I don't know how you stay there. Go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The problem, the
I just saw you. Sorry, I'm just laughing because I just saw your eyes roll back to the back of your head.
The dilemma becomes you have the intention of learning the feeling and the parts and the way everything's going, but none of that gels if the drummer doesn't
get it.
comply. Now you're in a, I'm going to say, legitimate, certified Led Zeppelin experience style band. And what happens is the fans are looking for strike on the notes. I know I am. That's just me, and I'm picky. Yeah. But like what happens is you either have to step on them or play through or hold back. And I mean, because you're playing all the hits. And my most favorite riff on planet Earth in this dimension of reality is in the middle of Dazed and Confused when the band starts freeforming and they're going do-do-da-da-do-do-da-da, and there's this rolling lick. And I never wanted to end. When I first learned it, I couldn't even physically hold it together. My hands were getting tired.
I know.
And I had to separate all the little things and break it down and make it rolling. And now I have a band that the guitar player won't go into it. And I'm like, I'm ready to quit because I don't care how bad I can hack. But if I can't get this one riff out through my gear as loud as I can, the way I want to impress it, but that's just one riff. I mean, there's a whole lot of love and there's 1,000 interpretations of it, but there's one way to do it right. And if you don't have a drummer that's going to do it right, how can you do that? No,
you're not going to be able to pull it off.
It's very difficult. I've played Led Zeppelin tunes with various bands and various drummers, obviously. But when they don't have that, when they don't listen to enough Led Zeppelin as a whole, then they don't really understand where that drum part is coming from. It's never in time.
You're right.
Metronomic timing is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. Yep. So if they don't know how to like stretch and pull pull it back or push it, then that's when I find it very difficult to play, especially if there's only one, if it's only as a 4-piece.
Right.
Because sometimes if you have a rhythm guitar player, you can both like force the issue if you're together. Right. But if you have only you holding it down while the guitar and the singers are going off in 3 different directions, then it just becomes really impossible.
It's funny that you mentioned that. There's a DJ, may he rest in peace, Jay Dilla, who does everything slightly off. So everything's always like. He got it from John Bonham. It purposely took his rhythms. Yep. Here's this guy from Chicago who made all these popular hip hop beats with Common and all these guys. Because you'd hear the stuff and go, especially a lot of the neo soul stuff, the beat was always slightly off.
And
I did a little bit of research. Like, how is it that everything is, it's like dragging and then it picks up, but it's right on point at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you looked at his bio and he mentioned a bunch of these different drummers. He said he started off with Clyde Stubblefield and James Brown. But he didn't like it because he felt it was stiff.
Yeah.
And then he said he found it in John Paul Jones. And I was like, that's really, really interesting that usually with R&B and rock, it was just R&B and funk, it's always the groove would be there. But he's like, nope, I found it in John Paul Jones. Not in other rock drummers, just John Paul Jones. Just him in particular. No, that's John Paul Jones, John Bonham.
Yeah.
Joan, do you have a preference to early as opposed to later on Zeppelin bass lines
So the early Zeppelin obviously is very blues based, and I learned a lot of his language in the blues based songs, where it's not blues based and it's like
arty.
Yeah, like a song that's already like been fleshed out. That is more about his groove in that particular song. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, let's talk about this because we're coming to the end of our interview. We're going to talk about what are you playing these days? Your amplification, your bass, your
string.
You have several, your strings.
And do you have any to show us?
Do you have any to show us? Any display with us?
Yeah, I put it all beside me just so I could show it to you.
All right.
I said I came with.
Okay. We want to see them all.
Let's do this. Okay, wait, hold 1 second. You can get ready, and Greg will introduce the segment. All right, Greg, and you're on.
Okay, we've reached the segment in our Case for Bass interview today with Joan Chew, where we talk about the tools of the trade. And if you've seen our episodes, you know that bass choice and preference has a lot to do with not only the type of gigs they play, but the kind of sounds they want to create and project. And we're very excited to have Joan show us what she has, and we're going to pass this on to Joan. Now, we always ask for the top 3 basses that you play and what you use them for, but we've had people go 7 basses deep. So
I don't have that many basses.
Oh, come on. Where's the forest? Where's the forest?
The funny thing is that the 2 basses that I do play on my main projects don't even belong to me.
Oh, no. But I was talking to Anthony.
They're both jazz basses.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Wait,
I've heard that before.
So you're a Fender G&E person.
Sorry?
You like Fenders.
Yeah, you like Fenders.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, join the club.
Yeah, we're all Fenders.
Fender, G&L, Music Man.
Yeah.
That's what we have.
Like I said, the two main projects I play, I don't use my own bass. With Lez Zeppelin, there is a Fender Jazz there, and it belongs to the band. And with Six, they obviously have their own gear, like I mentioned earlier on. But I do have my own jazz bass too. So it's standard, So, and I got this, I want to say about 10 years ago already.
Okay.
I just think this what I really like about it is how the sound is able to be like really resonate, really stays when I want it to,
Okay.
And
well, do me a favor, hold it up to
Let's see the body.
You see the body?
Nice.
That's
it. That's perfect.
It's so versatile. It's what I need.
So it's all stock. It's a stock jazz. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
What strings are on it?
Today, I don't know actually. I think I changed it. I changed it
Today,
a while ago. So that's why I can't remember. But I have these like Dunlop bright strings on it.
Okay.
Yeah, but they don't sound really bright. I would have to say like it you can make it sound really bright, but you can also like dial it back and get that, data tone. Yeah, thuddy tone. So
awesome.
When Dunlop sent it to me, I was like, I don't think I'm going to go for bright strings. But for some reason, when I put it on, it just gives it clarity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what's your next bass?
I also have, let's go with the full scale.
Oh, the blue bass.
That blue bass.
Beautiful.
Nice.
But you can see it's still very jazz.
No, dude, it's got all the wear and tear in the right spots.
Yep.
So this is a Gamma custom bass. I was introduced to it about like a year ago now, almost a year ago. Yeah.
I love the fact that it's nice and beat up.
Yeah.
It has miles on it. It really does.
Well, it warms the tone up.
This one's a little punchier, I would say. Like I was recording, I played it for a while before I decided I'm going to just record it and see what's the difference between when I play with fingers, when I play with picks, when the tone's dialed up or down.
Nice.
And and I do enjoy playing it, but it's a little slightly heavier than the jazz.
Sure.
Yeah.
We notice non-maple necks.
Yes.
Is that a thing? You
I-
just
I-
it came
I-
with the bass. You love it.
Yeah, I
You
thought when
played-
I played it, I didn't go looking for a certain deck. I just picked
Okay.
up one and if I
Gotcha.
feel good with
Do you
it,
play it
yeah.
out of the box? Just out of the box, you have it set
Yeah.
up, or you just play it as it is?
The Gamma is right out of the box. It was already set up for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
What kind of amps you
congratulations.
play?
It's right.
Huh?
What kind of?
Oh, is
amp-
that- is that- is that
another
another one?
bass. Oh, what's that?
So I have a I really love short scale basses. I don't bring them
Gotcha.
out a lot, but I really like short scale basses. And this is my Mustang. This is a Japan made
okay.
one. This is the one that I brought from Singapore.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, all original.
I don't do a lot of mods.
Mhm.
And here's a fun one that looks like a baseball bat. It's probably the most jazz looking bass.
Mhm.
Can you guess?
Is that a Univox?
a
It's not a Univox, is it?
no. It's not
Yeah.
orange. No, it's a
It is. You got
Oh, it's
it.
an orange, dude.
Yeah.
You got
yeah.
it. You
Do,
got that.
do I win the
Right on.
prize?
Not my bass though.
No, I don't want. I always leave people their own bases.
Wow.
But yeah, no, it popped in my head. I look at too many
That's
bases.
super cool. So that's not yours.
It is mine. It is.
Oh, that is
this
yours, okay.
Yeah, that's
What-
all the bases I
How
have.
did, we always ask, how did that thing end up in your hands, let alone back in your house?
So when I first saw it online, I was like, I got to try that. You know, I saw it online. I heard the sound. It's like it's very different from the other basses that I've had. So I thought of trying it out. I remember going to Reverb in person during a tour, and asked if they had it, but I saw online that they had it, but apparently not. So finally, I have to say this was actually a gift from someone very close. When I talked about it, so he got it for me, and now it's in my hands and hasn't left my hands, and I love playing with it. Yeah.
There's a lot of controversy over that bass.
But tell me.
Well, people think because the amp company made the bass that they don't necessarily
Of course.
are bass oriented,
Of course.
that they tried to make an instrument that would match their amps.
Right.
The other thing is that they're breaking away from what we call the Fender model of tone,
Yes.
which you already said
Very different.
very different.
Yeah.
And the third part of it is when you move away from the Fender tone, you're in an unknown territory,
Yes.
and
Very, very
it becomes very personally subjective. Now, I bought my first Ibanez bass, my 6-string, and
That
I
is still
plugged it in.
surviving.
It's changed how I think about things.
Oh.
I'll admit I buy cheap, and even with my Music Man, it still has those Fender qualities.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's because it's a 6-string. I don't know if it's because it's an Ibanez. I had no expectations of it. I just knew it was going to be different, and I really don't care. It has
Okay.
electronic pickups, and they're very powerful. But I'm going to say I love it.
Okay, let's talk about your amplification.
Oh,
And this will be your last. And then our final question will be, what would you tell an up and coming inspiring musician, especially women, because I know that a lot of women are trying to reach out to other women who
Mhm.
want to break out into the business. But let's talk about your amplification first.
For the band, most of the time I use an orange Tiny Terror.
Oh, okay.
oh,
Yeah,
Oh.
and I travel
it's a Led Zeppelin thing. It's a Led Zeppelin thing.
Yeah. Well,
They
I
used
like
orange
the,
amps.
Yeah, I like the Tiny Terror because I think, one, it's small, and I have like a Mark bass 210, the Traveler.
Mhm.
When I first got that, it was like if I have to move around New York myself and I don't drive, I mean,
Yeah.
I can't be carrying big things.
No,
So-
No.
But those amps, the head and the amp, it's really powerful. I've used it for like mostly up to 500 to 800 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's loud.
wow.
Okay.
My drummer loves it. My singer loves it. I guess my guitar player must love it because she hasn't complained.
Okay.
But, my friend at the house love it. So
Awesome.
And
Good
I
for
love
you.
it.
Yeah. Well, that's what's important.
Okay.
Is
Last question.
that the speaker that faces down to the floor?
No, the 210 is like a really every time
Oh,
you
the
lift it,
210.
yeah, if
The
you lift
210,
it, you
yes.
think it's going to be heavy, but it's one of those things where I can do this with it, you know.
Nice.
Perfect.
Nice.
Yeah,
All right,
newer
so-
amps are lighter.
So final question, and don't hang up. Like once we're done, I have to have you do a tagline as well.
Sure.
So what would you tell someone who's up and coming in the business, especially motivating other young women, or maybe other young women of color who are from other countries? Because you came from Singapore and you made it, you got it to the position where you're able to work. So what would you say to someone like that?
I mean, keep practicing and don't let your ego get in the way, as you've mentioned also in the show. They're all typical advice, but they all ring true because people tell it to me, and I'm just spreading the same word because I think it's important. Be a musician first. Be able to listen. Use your ears. That's the most important thing. Use your ears. Be respectful. Be on time. Show up when you are required to show up. Don't be an asshole. Can I say that?
Yes, you
You
can.
can say anything you want.
Yeah. Don't be
People
that.
on this show have said worse.
Okay. I've been trying to rein it in, but yeah, don't be an asshole. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Big shouts out to Joan Chew, professional.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on and talking with us.
Thank you for having
It's always
me.
insightful.
No, that's awesome. And the fact that you said that, because I was at the Victor Wooten bass camp, and Rod Taylor, who plays bass for Shania Twain, was saying that Victor preferred someone who was less talented but easier to be around. Because you got to remember something. You're on tour because you're only on stage for 2 hours.
Yep.
Then you're on tour with them for 22 hours. On top of that, because you don't want someone who's, as you would say, he's an asshole. Don't be-
Yeah. For
Yes,
sure.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're also trying to minimize conflict.
Well,
Yeah. I mean, and also just know your role in the band. If you're hired as a bass player, don't try to be a guitar player.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
where I come
Yo,
from.
can I tell you something? I'm doing a couple of jobs.
Yeah.
It's funny because I had heart disease last year, so I haven't played in a while. But I'm getting hired to work with this blues bass player for sometime in August. And he pointed out, and I told the drummer, I said, "Did you let him know that I dance? Because I want to make sure that I need to know my role. I don't want to walk in there and assume anything."
Yeah.
So, and not only did I do that the guy said, "Oh, I definitely want him to do that." And then I listened to the song list that he gave us, and then I went on Spotify and I heard songs that he didn't have on there that were much cooler. And I said, "Can I suggest that he play these songs?"
Some of these songs, yeah.
Yeah, and he said, "Oh, even better," because he thought the drummer couldn't pull it off.
Oh,
So
okay.
and he was super happy that I kind of he felt that I elevated his set
That's
by
great.
pushing that.
Yeah.
And it is great, but I had to ask still. I couldn't make the assumption.
Correct. Yeah. I just feel like I'm with you on about like people are no longer just there to listen to a show. Yes,
No.
sometimes it is. It depends on the stage, depends on the show itself.
Yeah.
But if you can, people are there to watch.
Yeah.
And like you said, Anthony, if you're having fun with the band, with what you're doing, it immediately translates to the audience. And I think that's what I personally feel that Lez Zeppelin has a lot of, because we have
exactly.
a lot of fun on stage with each other first.
Yes.
And then the audience sees that and they can't help themselves. And every time we're in a seated event, they all eventually just like, they get so antsy, they have to stand up and come close to us because they feel that from us.
Wow.
Visually,
what's funny?
it's down, yeah.
Did you say that? I remember there was this club, and there was this band, Lez Zeppelin, years ago.
Lez Zeppelin, they
Yep.
still play.
I heard, yeah, they still play, yeah.
But
still
they
play.
would play, and I remember when they played, what's the one? Kashmir.
Cashman,
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Reggae.
the hip hop guys there, they didn't care for Led Zeppelin's music. Once they played Kashmir, you saw the whole audience go. It's just like, it was just a giant headbang. And I would look at the guys and go, I thought you don't like Led Zeppelin. He said, "No, I like this song.
Ah,
This song is like," because in their head they're thinking it's like a hip hop track.
I know
Again,
it was sampled. Yeah.
Yep. It's
Well,
that slight drag that
They broke the
John Bonham
rules.
does.
Yeah.
But Led Zeppelin, was one of those first like breakout bands
Yeah.
to really, cross genres of music between
Yeah.
the Led Zeppelin and the
Zeppelin
reggae.
and reggae.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they had an unidentifiable look. Like
Yes.
you couldn't pin down what anybody
What-
looked
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but you knew the material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
the whole thing about the Led Zeppelin genre, I'm going to blurt it, is you have two kinds of fans. You have the musician who's going, all right, I got to see how they play it.
Right. Sure.
Yep.
And then you've got the other half of the audience that wants that whole show
Yep.
of what Led Zeppelin brought. But
Yeah.
in Joan's band, they're bringing, I'm going to say it, an opposite look to a standard
Yes.
to a standard expectation.
Yep.
And it's been working for a very, very, very long time
Well,
for them.
the band's 20 years old. Even though
Yeah,
I
the
haven't
band's
been-
20 years
Yeah.
old.
This year, 20 years
I
old.
remember when they
Wow.
first started, and
Wow.
and it was like, oh, what's this? Oh,
Yeah.
who's that? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm losing a band. I'm losing a show to this band. Okay,
Uh-huh.
Yep.
and that's
All right,
the way it
guys.
started.
We need to end.
Can I just say
Yes.
one last thing?
Absolutely,
I feel
John.
that-
Go right
I
ahead.
feel like playing like Led Zeppelin's music today. It's kind of like playing the Bach, Beethoven, Brahms of classical music. You're never going to see Led Zeppelin do it again. So I hear like when tribute bands get bad rap, so to speak. I
But
feel
that
like
changed. But that changed.
That's changed a lot.
That to me, yeah, I know it has changed a lot, but there's still people who, because we get it all the time. One, we get you're never going to be, there's never going to be another Page, there's never going to be another Platt. Of course, we're not
Yeah.
trying to be like that.
Yeah,
We just
right.
want you to experience the music live as it should be,
Mhm.
and hopefully you like our rendition of it. You can
Mm-hmm.
go listen to 1,000 renditions of Led Zeppelin or Who or any band or Beatles. Same like you will go to various orchestras to listen to them play Symphony 9 by Beethoven, and then you go to the one that you like, the best interpretation of it for you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I agree.
So-
No, thank you.
I'm putting up
Thank you very
my
much.
favorite experience band. I'm
Yep.
friends with
Linda
the
Ronstadt.
Linda Ronstadt Experience, and it's the same kind of thing. Like Linda isn't going to sing,
No,
but this
she's not.
band and Tristan McIntosh, who's the lead singer, the way she can hit the notes and recreate it, it becomes the fan base is overwhelmed because she brought it back,
Yes.
and it's even Linda approved.
Yep.
And it just makes
All
for a
right,
great.
Can we
great
discuss
gig.
this after the show?
Yeah, you can cut me off for the 5th time now.
No, because we have to focus on the bass part.
That's it.
Okay, so
Sorry.
thank you very much, Joan. No, not at all. Thank you very much, Joan.
Thanks, Anthony.
We
Thank
will
you for
see you
it.
soon. Okay. Hold on.
Thank you.